Back to that Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
All right, my next guest serves as the bureau chief for Southern California's outpost for the Epoch Times, a news agency that has come on board in recent years with a very objective kind of view towards the events as they are playing out in front of us. And he's had a special assignment in recent times that he's also going to tell us about, which is why we've invited him on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Siamak Kurami. Siamak, welcome.
Kevin, thank you. Kevin, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have. Leaving California, the untold story is the name of the documentary, and I've seen the trailer, and we're going to play that for my viewers and listeners here in just a moment. But there is a really tragic narrative being played out in Southern California, and I'm curious. My listeners know some of the beefs that I've brought up over the years, but what are some of the reasons, motivations, rationale you chose to make this documentary at this time?
You know, Kevin, one of the things we noticed is as we went out there and talked to people that are leaving, we realized that a lot of them love the state, but they have to leave because something in their life has changed. The cost of living is so high here, cost of housing is so high, you know, the crime is going up. Public education is not as good as it used to be. So things have changed in their life and they have to leave, even though they love the state.
You know, when I stole my bride from Southern California 20 years ago, she grew up in a place that had very great memories for her, lower crime, the homeless problem, the public urination and defecation and encampments of homeless people, even in smaller cities like Santa Barbara now. A lot of these things were not going on, were not taking place, and certainly not to the degree that they are now. But as she's gone, we have watched from this side of the country as many of her relatives have packed up and left as well. And that doesn't even begin to discuss the problem of major businesses leaving. What do you think is leading California in this direction? How did it get to the place where crime has spiraled out of control? The cost of living is through the roof, and people are that don't want to leave are exiting.
You know, Kevin, what's fascinating here is that most people in California don't know why the way things are the way they are. So, for example, cost of living is high, but people don't really question, like, why is it so much more expensive here to get gas? The cost of gas here is 40% higher than the national average. The cost of utility is a lot higher. The electricity is more than double than the national average. But people don't really question it. They just go with the way they think this is the way it is. At the same time, the leaders of the state, they are choosing certain policies. You know, we have really committed to climate policies that cost us a lot, but it's costing the average Californians. And the media is not doing the job of telling the average Californians what's going on. And so over time, as these policies have gone on without getting checked, it's causing things to get out of control. So, for example, you mentioned homelessness, you know, and crime. We passed Prop 47 10 years ago, and we essentially legalized theft. And we're allowing people to camp on the streets, and we're allowing people to steal and actually use that money to buy drugs. And drug dealers have taken control of these homeless encampments. And at the same time, our policymakers are building housing for them. We're paying taxes in a city like LA. We passed a measure 7 years ago to build housing for the homeless. We spent $1.2 billion on housing, but it was supposed to be studios that was at $120,000 a unit to house 10,000 people. After 7 years, we built studios that cost $600,000, and only we're housing 1,100 people. We've only built 1,100 studios instead of 10,000. So there is this phenomena where we have problems that policymakers are kind of ignoring, and they're trying to solve their own problems. But at the same time, there's a level of corruption on the way they're solving these problems. And the media is not really telling us what's going on. That's why we really made this documentary, to go deep, to analyze what's happening.
Yeah. And for people that are watching or listening, you can go to salemnow.com or get on the Salem Now app on your Apple or Android device and download it and watch it. It's called Leaving California, The Untold Story. CMAC, I want to touch on a couple of things as the rest of the country has watched California. And I've jokingly made statements on the air about, maybe it would be better for the rest of the country if we sawed the state off of the continent and pushed it into the Pacific and let it see how well it would do by itself for as long as possible. My bride didn't find that to be a funny joke, but
it is not funny, Kevin, to us in California.
No, it can't be, because there are still some good people there trying to fight, like yourself, for what is good. So I have to keep that sarcasm in check a little bit. But there are some things that California has adopted that are a legitimate threat to the rest of the country. And I want to touch on one and get your thoughts on it. A number of years ago, probably 5 to 6 years now, Gavin Newsom said we're gonna pull ourselves out of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, which linked local police efforts with federal anti-terrorism efforts. It was created after 9/11 in the aftermath of that terrorist attack, and was really designed to help local law enforcement and federal anti-terrorist units work more closely together so that they can stop attacks before they occur. That's the express design of it. And Bernie Kerik, former NYPD commissioner, was one of the people that put it together when it was compiled. California said we don't want to be part of it anymore. Simultaneously, they've adopted the most open border sanctuary policy in the country. It's not just a sanctuary city, it's a sanctuary state. And with that comes promises of education and hospital care and other things that have, in some ways, I think, bankrupted the state. But when you combine those two things and you have an open border and you combine it with not knowing or communicating about what's going on from a terrorist perspective, California is kind of the perfect place if a sleeper cell wanted to carry out something against the rest of the country to launch it from. And no one seems to care or notice that potential has been given. You've talked about crime and some of the other things, but is there a real danger looming in California right now?
Well, Kevin, the way the Public Safety Committee and the lawmakers in California are treating public safety itself is a huge question. Now, you're right about the terrorist dangers that are out there, but even just the basic things like legalizing theft, you don't even get any punishment. So what happens is that you can go and steal anything under $900, and you can keep going and stealing and stealing and stealing. There has been 17 attempts last year to change this law, but they all died in this Public Safety Committee that we have. The people that are in charge of the Public Safety Committee in California, they really have a different view of safety. There's been attempts to change the laws on fentanyl, and even Democrats in the state are not able to do much.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to come right back with CMAC Kurami from Epoch Times in Southern California. Very honored to have him, and his new movie is called Leaving California, The Untold Story. Coming right back. Stay here.
Ready or not, he'll be right back. That Kevin.